Welcome back. Thank you for the likes and shares on the previous one. Right, before I get into this, I had actually filmed a whole load of stuff and I've decided now I'm not going to bother with it. I was going to put a fiberglass body kit on the back of this, which I was going to make up myself from an old Ferrari kit car that was on the Perfect Road Trip 2. Now I've already started cutting it and I've laid it on. I'm going to show you. Some of you are going to laugh your heads off, and that's fine. I don't give a shit what you think. To the ones that are laughing, I think it will work, but it needs a lot of money spent doing it. And I happened to clock a Harley online last night that was a trike conversion, and the way the luggage box was put on, and it had a bar bumper on the back similar to my other trike, and I just fell in love with that straight away. And I said to the wife, I go, I'm sorry girl, we're not putting fiberglass on the back. So this is what I started with. Now bear with me because I'm going to show you some engineering in a minute and you're going to love that. Anyway, that's what I started with. The idea was to flatten that off here so that it lines up with that, but because I've gone for a swing arm conversion, having a fiberglass body is going to be extremely difficult to work around. I can do it. I reckon I'd have to cut these two trenches out and join these two halves together. And honestly, it don't look all that bad. From behind, it looked quite good. It would be a lot lower than that, so it'd be under the seat frame. There'd be a separate frame made for that to sit on. But I'm adding, here's the pros and cons, you see. I am adding a lot of weight to this, right? And I don't gain anything from it at all. Having all that fiberglass on the back, I don't gain nothing. I don't get a boot space. I don't get anything. I just get to cover up the electric motor system. And to be honest, with all the money I've spent so far on this engineering, which I'll show you in a minute what I've done, what I've had done, I don't want to waste, I just don't want to hide it. I don't want to hide it. So I went to the engineering shop this morning to pick up my diff. My God, what a man, what a star. I took the mickey out of him the other day about being a bit of a princess. I retract that. He worked through flu. Men, we all know what flu feels like, don't we? It's evil. And he worked through that. And I take my hat off to him. Metaphorically speaking. So there it is. So that's the sprocket for the electrics if I go down that route, which I want to. And that's the cover. That's the bearing holder for the other side. Let me pull that off. He's extended that, so he's made a press fit onto the original shaft, machined this shaft up, and then they've welded or brazed it all the way around. Done a brilliant job of that. Made a plate earlier on. That plate fits into there, which was the original crown ring, and then he's made another plate, welded in some studs for the sprocket, which I've got to cut down because it'd stick out too far. I may have to put a couple of washers on the sprocket so the chain can clear, and that is pretty much it. And as you know, this part, I've got to cut those bolts down because he didn't re-drill in there for me. So the outer ring here, yeah, that's a bit don't know about that. I think he did mention about welding some studs in or something, so that may have to happen. I may have to reverse these, go the other way and put some nuts on the end or something, because there isn't a lot of thread in there that's going to hold that on. And he couldn't drill into this for obvious reasons because you've got a pin there, and that needed to come off this. But all the same, right, he's done this, and that plate sits on there, that then bolts onto that plate, so we've got the other bearing bit. He is going to alter that for me. He's going to make that, put a sleeve inside. Look how close that is. Oh wow. Anyway, I'm happy with that, but he's got to shorten that side, or one of these sides anyway, quite significantly and all. So yeah, we are now at a position where we can get started and get this little lot temporarily mounted, because my next challenge on this build, if I don't run out of battery power, is to get the differential connected to the two plates, and then I can make the outer frames to hold the diff together which also means one side has to be a bolt on, bolt off, because I need to be able to split this if I have to make any good repairs. Apparently you can still get all these bits on an American website, because this came off I forgot the name of the car. It's a Mopar, I know that much. Duster. Came off a Duster, an American Duster. So he threw the axle away because he put an upgraded axle on, because he put a V8 in it instead of the standard 6-cylinder that the car came with. So he very generously gave me all the bits and bobs. So now I need to chase my other friend Moya up, because I need some brake calipers now so I can get the brake system sorted out. And then all this has got to come off again, because I'm sure they're not going to reach inside the tubes, and then hand them back to him. And also something else that I never told you about, because I was embarrassed, is not this side but the other side. I've wrecked the cup. There's two bearings in there, but only one of them is fitting properly, because I've got the alignment slightly wrong. I've got it right now, and I was speaking to him about it, and we came up with an idea: make up a new cup, but actually make it in one piece with a block of steel that can go inside that. So we take that one off, we cut it off, and then we put it inside, we realign everything up properly, and then we weld it all up, and that'll be stronger than the original idea. And if it really works as well as I'm hoping, I may very well cut that one off and do the same on that side. So that mistake might actually make that stronger. So there you go. Right, moving on, so I've got to charge this camera up. Right, now I've got some charge in my battery, and I think what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to do an upload, a very short version of this. I'll see if I can pull up that Harley Davidson on my phone so you get an idea what's going on. But that is the differential. But what we're not doing now, because I can't do it, because this one's too short, way too short. This one needs extending a little bit more. Can't really do much with that. I don't want to, get that machined off. I think enough money has been spent here. I am going to get him to make a sleeve inside of here, if we can. And from there, I don't really know. I mean, he could cut that tube down, put another tube inside, weld it. No, I don't think that's going to help me either with what I've got planned. And what I've got planned is I want to get a couple of these made up or purchased that can go on the end, and then a square plate bolt to that welds on the end of that tube, because this does not go far enough in there for me to put a seal over the end, because I'm not putting grease in this like a lot of the others do. I want oil in there, because the gears in this, they sit on what I can only describe as gudgeon pins, and I just don't think they're going to survive very long with grease. I know a lot of people do that, but I think that's a bit mad myself. So yeah, that he said to me, "Oh, I wouldn't do that," and I agree with him. So we're gonna, even though he suggested that I sort of pour oil through the eyelets of one of the bolts, so I'm not even going to do that. So this is good solid metal on here. I'm going to take the sump plug off that, and I'll get him to drill a hole and weld that in, because his welding will be neater than mine, I hope. In fact, that lad with a TIG welder could do with doing that, because that would look really cool if it was TIGged. And that's something I can show off then. And yeah, I think that's how we're going to do it. So I'm going to take the shortest prop that I've got to make in order to get that to line up. So I'll mark where the bearing is going to sit. I still want a spacer made up, because the thread on that is it. So I'm going to thread some bolts in there. I'm going to weld the ends up and then grind them flat so that plate can go back on. So effectively I'll have studs coming out here in the end, and that metal ain't thick enough. I don't think that's thick enough. So I'll then have a spacer go over the top that can fit tightly against all of this, and then the bearing can sit against the spacer, and then the bearing can't move, can it? Is where my logic is going with that. And then if he wants to, he can put another spacer over the top of that if he wants to make a seal, make it fit a metric seal. As long as it can all come off. I generally don't know. So I've got some drawing to do for that. I can't give him angles, he'll have to figure that out for himself. And then on this side, there's not much that need doing. He put a dugout in there for a seal to go in, a double seal, because the maintenance surface in there, he said possibly oil will start spilling out of there. I had already planned to put some gasket sealer in there, or even a gasket paper in there, and on that side anyway. I'd already planned for that, but having a seal is a secondary option to stop it from leaking, which is a really good idea. So I was very impressed. I mean, you've got to admit, guys, that is absolutely stunning. This is what I've waited for, and it was worth the wait. I know I was a bit moany about it, but come on, I'm desperate to get this thing done. Unfortunately though, my drawing and my measurements were off, because he did show me the bit of paper when I looked at it. I thought, shit, that looked really small. And yeah, it is. It doesn't reach at all. In fact, when you put that on with this in here, the bearing just about sits on the edge there. I mean, it'll go on there. If I clamp a bearing on, it will go on there, but it won't stop the oil that flows through the centre spraying out all over the road. It just won't stop it, and it won't stop the water from getting in, because this needs to be about here, nearly double that length already, unfortunately. So yeah, I think what we're going to have to do is I'll have to get him to machine some cups up similar to this that are capable of sliding over that tube. If we cut that tube back there, we can then bang that on as a tight fit, and then we can then offer that up to there. Because this will be sitting on the frame, I may now have to do a secondary hold point. I didn't want to do that, but I may not have a lot of choice. I may have to make another one of these to go in the middle there, and they were a mare to make. I didn't enjoy them one little bit, and the thing is, I'm not even sure I can get them straight, because I kind of made that. I'd have to put a long piece of tube along there, and I've now since cut my only piece of tube up as a guide. So this is a bit of a nightmare, really. It's gone a bit wrong. But if he can find me a long roller bearing, I'm assuming a roller bearing would work. Or two ball bearings, I suppose, would probably be the way forward for that to carry the load on that side, the same as that side. It might be enough just to hold that, and then when I make the braces to go over each axle, then that should hold it into position and stop it from falling. I mean, it is no different to what they've done here anyway, is it, really, realistically? Unfortunately, nothing I can do about it. This just does not reach, and I need to put a seal on the end, both sides. We worked that one out because it was skinnier inside, but the bearing is just too close to the edge for me to be comfortable to use it like that. And to be honest with you, I'd rather the bearing was way down here somewhere with a homemade cup welded straight to the tube, because it means I can then put the seal in, push the bearing on, two bearings if I have to, and you know, we're there, we're done. Anyway, apologies, there's not much of a video in here. I was hoping to show you a hell of a lot more. I can't, because there just isn't anything to show you apart from what the engineer has done. And mate, that is just wonderful. Thank you very much for what you did, and I know you're watching, but I am coming back. There is more to do. We've got a drive shaft to cut down, we've got a new hinge point to make on your milling machine. What else is there? Oh, there's the adapters for the sprocket to go on the gearbox. Need to sort that. I do have a clutch that fits the splines, so I'll take that clutch apart, so you've got a mounting point for the one with splines, but the other one is a prop shaft coupling, and I don't have anything for that. I was tempted to try and find one of those rubber mounts to put on there, but to be honest with you, I wouldn't know what would fit, so there's no point looking, is there? So we might just straight mount a hard solid, because you know, as long as we can adjust it from the, because I might make a plate onto the actual axle itself and mount that gearbox onto the plate, and then put a couple of slits in there onto the actual swing arm. So 2 bolts hold it down, so that's 2 more points to hold the axle on. So when I want to adjust it, I just undo them 2 bolts, and then the chain don't have to be adjusted. I can pull the whole thing back. The only thing is it'll be permanently spinning when you're riding along, but the gearbox has a clutch in it, and it's got a forward and reverse, so I can put it in neutral. So it shouldn't affect the gearbox whatsoever or the electromotor. It will only affect the chain as it's rolling around. So it will eventually wear. So I am going to have to make the gearbox slide on its slip plate a little bit as well to keep the tension up. But the main tension on the belt is delivered via the 2 extra bolts that I'm planning on putting on. So I have it figured out. after he's got this done and he's got it mounted, I got it mounted, sorry, I'll then work on the gearbox part. But I will put the gearbox together, and I will take my compressor out of the pickup truck because it's not being used, and we'll go from there. That means I've got to disconnect all the battery leads as well, because I've got leads running everywhere on that. But I do need battery leads for the motor from here anyway, so I'm out of breath. I was hoping to put a bigger battery on this as well, because I'm going to need it. The bike battery that's under here is now completely destroyed. My battery charger killed it. I bought one of these smart chargers and that flipping destroyed it, absolutely destroyed it. So that don't work no more now. Still producing 12 volts, but it's got no amps, 0.1 of an amp, something stupid like that. So I don't know what's happened to it. So I've got a feeling it's one of those batteries that's got all those little gubbins of electronics in it to stop the battery from frying or whatever it is, but the battery's shot, so I've got to buy a new battery. And I was debating about putting a car battery on this. I have somewhere in the garden a stop-start battery. It ain't got a lot of charge left in it. It's a little lazy now, that battery, but it might be good enough for the moment to fire this thing over once I get that tank finished off. But I just decided not to do any more paint because I'm working on the back, and I know that paint will get scratched, what with the seat being pulled off all the while, and do you know what I mean? So summertime we'll be painting all that. Anyway, I've yapped on enough. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for your likes and shares on the previous one, and I'll catch you next week. Bye bye.